first question goes that what actually got you into metal music at first?
So I think the first time heavy music really hit me was I must have been, I want to say like 8 or 9 years old. My older sister was into a lot of grunge bands and she liked like Soundgarden and stuff. But like the first time she showed me Deftones, that's when I was like, oh shit, okay, like there's something going on here with this, and that's really what started my journey into the heavier side of rock.
Okay. So what got you actually to like get into metal bands and start singing and become a metal vocalist?
To become a metal vocalist, I've been in a lot of local. So I grew up in San Diego. I grew up in like the hardcore scene there, and
Okay.
I played guitar and bass for a bunch of bands, but I was in this one band and we lost our singer. Out of necessity, I just took over the role of singing for the band, and I wasn't very good at the time. I was just the only one that would step up to the plate and do it. And I remember I would just, every day driving to work, I would just put in like, one of my favorite albums and just sing and try and get better in the car, singing and screaming on the way to work.
Okay. So what were the like bands and songs you were sort of trying to mimic first?
At that time, it was like bands like AFI, The Used, a bit more on the hard rock side of things, a little less like super heavy metal. The occasional Slayer here and there.
So did you had like some specific vocalists that you looked up to and mimicked first before you started to sort of like develop your own sound as a vocalist?
Mike Patton for sure. Mike Patton is he's my favorite singer of all time, favorite male singer of all time for sure.
So were you like covering him first and sort of trying to figure out the way he does things, or how did you develop the sound that you have?
Not first, because I mean, as you know, Mike Patton, some of the stuff he's singing is that's not beginners. That's not by no means should you be starting with Mike Patton stuff. But no, I worked up to it, and even other singers like Brandon Boyd that had a very similar vibe. Just learning new techniques from singing their material. Because when you sing somebody else's stuff, your natural reaction is to try and mimic them and sound like them. And I feel like I did that with a lot of different singers, and it just kind of added to my repertoire of things that I had under my belt, and different voices and executions of techniques.
So did it take like a long time to figure out the right technique for the like screaming so that you wouldn't lose your voice?
Yeah, man. And sometimes, you really have to remind yourself, or I do at least. I'll still to this day sometimes have a show where I am not thinking too much about the technique and I'm getting too much into the live aspect of it, and I'll blow my voice out. Like it's a very easy thing to do, especially when you're playing for an hour or an hour and 20 minutes, of screaming. But yeah, dude, the first I'd say the first 4 years I was in Periphery, I didn't know what I was doing with screaming. I was just kind of figuring it out as I went.
So what kind of like early memories do you have when it comes to like, for example, first proper tours that you did?
Earliest memories of
first proper tours that you did. Were you like ready vocal wise to do those tours, or were there like massive learning experiences for you also, like to be a vocalist?
Oh, okay. So we toured with Dream Theater at the end of 2011, and that was a point in time where I was like, okay, I need to really start taking this seriously, because we, at that point we had only played, I think, to maybe like 500 people in a room total, and we go from that to going on tour with Dream Theater in Europe and being in front of 12,000 to 15,000 people every night, and it was a very nerve-wracking experience because we're on in-ears then, and it's a crystal clear mix, and like the PA sounds great, so it's like you hear exactly what's coming out of there. And I wasn't necessarily having the best shows, so it was kind of like an eye-opening experience for me, and I was like, damn, I really need to start taking this more seriously.
So were you doing some kind of like vocal warm-ups around that time, or have you developed your own way to do things like later on your career?
Yeah, and they've been evolving since then. Like on that tour, James Labrie, Dream Theater's vocalist, he gave me tips and pointers here and there and what to do, if I get sick and my voice is raw one day, and just little tips. But yeah, as far as warm-ups go, they've evolved throughout the years, and I actually have a free warm-up course that's on YouTube. It's called Spencer Sotelo's Warm-Ups for Total Destruction, and it's completely free.
Okay, and that's the kind of warm-up that you follow on the tour, like each night yourself.
That's it's exactly what I'm doing to get my voice prepped for stage every single night.
Okay. So are there like some specific foods or drinks that you wouldn't rather have before the show that you feel that they affect, for example, your vocal cords somehow?
Yeah, carbonated drinks are the worst. Not because they fuck with my voice, but like burping in between lines, because you need to take a lot of air in when you're screaming and rapid fire, bursting off a lot of syllables here and there. And when you're taking in that much air, if you have carbonation in your stomach, you don't have enough room to take in what you need to, and it constantly makes you want to burp. So that, and then as far as foods go, I can't have spicy foods before I go on stage. As much as I like spicy food, like I like me some good buffalo wings, man, but I have to wait till after a show to have those. That's actually what I had last night after I got off stage. It was time once I was done. So
okay, but are there like some drinks that you like to have before the show that you have felt that they sort of help you?
Whiskey helps a lot. Not too much, just a little bit. Like sipping on a little bit of whiskey, I feel like it soothes your voice, kind of opens things up a bit.
Okay, but it doesn't dry you anyhow.
Mm-hmm. No, not. I mean, if you have enough of it, it will. But a lot of people, I don't do this, but I know a lot of people will put like a little bit of honey in it, or even mix it with like some tea, make like a little hot toddy.
Okay, yeah, then it works. Obviously, you have released quite a lot of albums with Periphery, but are there like some specific album that you could point out where you have made the most progress as a vocalist yourself?
I think this new record is the one that I've made the most progress in. It's not a coincidence. We had 3 years off, and I made it a point to just completely woodshed it and make my voice the best it could be, going from what our last record was to this record. And not just techniques, but just ways of executing words and pronunciations, and just like every aspect of being a singer, right? I wanted to improve as much as I could.
So how important is that aspect for you, that pronunciation, that's like perfect?
Very. And it's not necessarily like a thing about it being perfect, but about it being right for the part, right? Because sometimes you could say an E like E or A. It just depends on how it sounds, how it phonetically feels with what's coming before and after it. And so thinking about things like that and being more cognizant of them.
So obviously you already mentioned that you have a new album, Djent is not a genre, coming out in few days. So are there like some specific things on the vocals that you did like differently this time around?
So I didn't tune any of the main vocals. Some of the backing vocals and harmonies and choir vocals, those all have vocal tuning on them, but all the main ones I didn't use it. There might have been like one word here or there if it was like, oh, that take is really good and I don't want to recut the entire thing just because one word is out. I may have printed some tuning here and there, but I would say 99.9% of all of the main vocals on the record have absolutely no tuning.
So for me, I've heard obviously the album already, and for me it feels like, again, very dark album. So the last few albums have been like quite dark and quite heavy also musically. So is that the kind of like direction you want to go also with the music at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. Me and Misha wanted to do a bit of like a weirder record this time, melodically at least. We've been talking about that for a while, and I told him, I was like, give me a challenge, give me something crazy to write to, So that was kind of the goal as far as the melodic aspect goes. But it's not just a dark record in terms of musicality, but the lyrics too. I think a lot of people went through a dark time over the past few years, and I'm no exception. The past few years were a really tough time for me. I went through a divorce, had a lot of family stuff going on, and definitely was not the best few years for me. So I wrote about a lot of it. Most of the lyrics on the record are a direct reflection of the past few years for me.
So I have a couple of questions left, and the second last one goes that what were actually your parents' reactions when they heard that you joined a metal band and you are like pursuing a career as a metal vocalist?
I mean, they didn't like it, obviously. You know, they're proud from afar. I know they are, but they are very, very staunch Jehovah's Witnesses. And you know, they're not bad people. They're actually really good people, but because of their religion, they won't have a normal relationship with me. So yeah, obviously they didn't like it when they found out. But that doesn't mean they like hate me or anything. You know, they're proud. They're proud from afar for sure.
So are there like any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who is just about to start their career?
Write all your vocal parts for the music and not about, you know, showing off. Like write each section for the music. And always remember to warm up properly and also take rest when you need rest. Because once you blow your voice out on the tour, you're done. It's very hard to build back from that. So you're better off taking it easy on stage if you feel that happening, even if it's not going to make for the best show that night. You know, take it easy, dial it back, get through the night, and then get some rest and work on getting your voice built back to where it needs to be.
Hey, Spencer, thanks a lot for taking the time to do the interview with me, and best of luck for the tour as well as for the future.
Thank you very much, man. That was a great interview.